daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markel. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markel.
All right, welcome back to Morning Mindset. I'm your host, Paul Markel, and thank you once again for joining me. Stand by for some positive and productive discussion about mindset and all things that wrap around it. And today, we're going to talk about anger and whether or not it is a strategy. Anger is not a strategy, but I'm going to tell you why. Anger is a motivator. Many moons ago, I was a young child and I went to Sunday school. And in Sunday school, we learned about, well, obviously the Old Testament and the New. And one of the stories that we learned about in Sunday school was when Jesus went into the temple and he overturned the tables of the money changers and he drove the money changers out of the temple. And many of you had a similar upbringing, may have gone to Sunday school or went to church, and you remember seeing paintings of Jesus driving the money changers out of the temple, right? And, you know, when you're a kid, you hear these stories and you acknowledge them and you appreciate them and you move on with your life. But often when you're a child, you don't think, well, why was that story told? Why was that story included in the New Testament? What is the purpose of that story in my life? And, many years later, as an adult, I started examining that situation. You say, well, why would there be an example of Jesus Christ losing his temper or becoming angry? I mean, he didn't drive he fashioned a scourge out of cords and he drove the money changers out of his father's house because they had turned it into a den of vipers. Well, he didn't drive them out of the temple with a scourge because he wasn't angry. He was very angry because of that. He was upset over that. Now, today in our modern world, it's easy to fall into this trap of thinking or believing that anger is wrong. And when you get angry, it's like Yoda says, man, anger leads to fear, leads to hatred, leads to the dark side, because what do we know from Yoda? Everything leads to the dark side, right? But we have this push in our touchy-feely society that if you ever become angry, well, you're wrong. And you should do something to fix yourself. And if you become angry or lose your temper, then you should apologize for that. That's you doing something wrong. That's not really the case. The fact of the matter is sometimes anger is a valuable emotion. And I believe that the reason that story about the money changers was included in the New Testament of the Bible was to give an example to modern Christians and to let them know that, you know what? It's okay sometimes to be angry. Anger is, it's an emotional response. It's an emotion, but it's supposed to be a motivator, but not a strategy. Several years ago, a good friend of mine was in a business deal with somebody, and he thought everything was going to, go really well, and he was looking forward to this new business venture. And then after a couple of months, things kind of fell apart, and his business partner did some things, said some things that upset him, and that made him angry. And he was really PO'd. He was really angry about that. And I talked to him on the phone and for a long time, and he was telling me what he was going to do. And his strategy, though, seemed to be based a lot on being angry. He was angry, and he was going to do this, and he was going to do this, and this is how he was going to go forward. And I listened to him because I'm a friend, and that's what friends do. And then later on, after we weren't on the phone anymore, I just sent him a text message, and I said, remember, anger is not a strategy. And he's like, all right, I get you. I see what you're saying there. But let me give you an example. Okay, how anger is not supposed to be a strategy, but yet it is a motivator. If you are in a situation where, let's say, a thug, a criminal, a bad person, a ne'er-do-well attempts to engage in a felonious assault on you, they're assaulting you with a weapon or their fists or, threatening your life with a gun or a knife or what have you, you should be angry. If someone attempts to engage in a felonious assault against you, you should be angry. Anger is the motivator. You're like, this person has no right to threaten me with a weapon. This person has no right to attack me. I am now angry. But how am I going to deal with that? Well, am I going to deal with that through simply being angry? Is the anger going to lead me to the other side, to victory, to survival, or what have you? Well, no, actually it's not. What's going to lead me to the other side, what's going to lead me to being not a beaten or bruised or dead victim, what's going to lead me to the other side of being a victor in this situation is the proper application of tools and techniques. That's my strategy. My strategy is not just to be angry. Someone attacks me, and my strategy is like, I'm really angry, and because I'm angry, you're like, well, yeah, but doesn't anger make you strong, Paul? Or doesn't anger make you, that's not really the point. The point is the motivator was anger. Now, I know that was kind of a really serious example there. And you're like, well, what about other things in your life? All right, I've got one for you. I really don't like to be told that I cannot or am incapable of doing something. When people tell me that I can't, and when I say I can't, I don't mean am not allowed. I'm not using the word cannot as allowed. When people say, well, you can't do that, or they belittle you to the point where they say, well, you're a nice person, but you're not capable of doing that. You're not capable of performing. If someone tells me that I can't, that they believe I'm incapable of doing that, that generally angers me. I kind of feel insulted by that. Anytime someone tells me that I can't do it, my knee-jerk response is to set out to prove that person wrong. Now, just because I feel kind of angry or insulted, that's not my strategy. My strategy to prove them wrong is not to continuously be angry or insulted. My strategy to prove that person wrong is by going forward and doing the absolute best job that I possibly can and succeeding in whatever endeavor it is that they told me that I couldn't do. So anger in that case was a motivator. Like, who are you to tell me that I can't do that? Who are you to tell me that I'm not good enough? I'll show you, but the strategy that I employ to show them that, yes, I could do it is not just to be angry all the time. That's not a strategy. Now, anger is not a sin. It is not wrong to be angry. Regardless of what Yoda says about anger leads to hate and hate leads to the dark side and so forth, the fact is sometimes anger is a motivator. Sometimes it's a very, very justifiable motivator, but it's not a strategy. All right. We need to understand that there are things that go on in our world. You may see the news, you read it on your phone or your laptop or your tablet or whatever, and you see things in the world that anger you. Okay. We acknowledge that. But in order to make things better, in order to correct the situation, in order to, solidify our own position, we can't just be angry. Anger is a motivator. All right. But it's not a strategy, so don't base your strategy on being angry. Your strategy has to be something productive and proactive. All right, folks, I hope you appreciated that. I appreciated the opportunity to speak these words deep into your ear holes. And if you enjoyed them, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever this happens to be that you're listening, your favorite podcast app. And also do me a favor and do them a favor too. If you know someone in your life who you feel could benefit from Morning Mindset, take the time to share it with them. All right, guys, I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markel, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.